I am Lily, and I'm 23 years old. I recently completed my second year of college studying painting, and I must say that it has been an amazing experience. However, before I go into that, you need to understand my background. I never felt at home in the house where I grew up. My parents, Julie, who is older than me, have always expressed their love for me. She has been a problem for me since the day I was born, and she is 5 years older than me. Julie appeared to despise me right away. She used to tease me, smash my toys, and generally ruin my life. Oh, that's just how sisters are. My parents would dismiss it with a joke, but it wasn't typical. I still recall my intense crush at the age of 15 on Scott, a boy I went to school with. He was the cutest guy ever, in my opinion. I secretly drew hours of pictures of him and stashed them beneath my mattress, confident no one would discover them. But Julie did what you know when she discovered them. She posted them for public viewing on the school bulletin board. I can still picture the people whispering, pointing, and laughing as I walked into the school that day. My entire universe seemed to be collapsing. "Lily, I saw the drawings," remarked a shaky and apprehensive Scott as he approached me. "You know, I don't like you that way, even if you're sweet and all." It was a day I ran home in tears. My folks were in the kitchen when I arrived home. With tears streaming down my cheeks, I yanked open the door. "Mom, Dad, Julie made me look bad at school." My own sketches were discovered by her, but before I could say anything further, Julie entered the room with a smug expression. She spoke with the moniker I detested, saying, "Oh, come on, Teresa. It was only mildly enjoyable. It's not my fault if you find jokes offensive." And what did my folks do, do you know? They chuckled. They genuinely chuckled. "You really need to toughen up," my mom replied, wiping tears of amusement from her eyes. "Julie is not to blame for your extreme sensitivity." I was overjoyed to be admitted into an art college for this reason. It was my means of leaving that home and the incessant taunting and humiliation. The only person who ever shown me genuine concern was my grandmother. It was her who told me I had talent and who appreciated my work. She insisted on paying for my tuition as soon as I was admitted. "Lily, you have a gift," she remarked, her eyes shining. "Never listen to someone who says otherwise. I'll see to it that you receive the education you are due." She covered all of my costs for 4 years, including my tuition, art supplies, and a small amount for living expenses. But then she fell ill, right before my senior year. I recall holding her frail hand while I sat by her bedside. "Lily, my dear, I'm so proud of you," she added, casting a warm gaze on me. "You're going to achieve amazing things." "Larry, Maria, I need you to promise me something," she added, turning to face my parents, who were positioned at the foot of the bed. "Make me a promise that you will cover Lily's last year. She must complete her schooling." Both of my parents gave a solemn nod. "Obviously, Mom," my father replied. "We swear." 7 days later, Grandma passed away. We learned that Mother had left Julie and me her jewelry, and my parents her house when her will was read. Naturally, Julie snatched up the diamond tiara right away. "I accept this," she murmured. "The ring can be Lily's. Teresa, you do realize that she doesn't really care for jewelry?" I didn't dispute. She was accurate. I grabbed the diamond ring and placed it in a safety deposit box at the bank, because I wasn't big on jewels. In college, I made friends quickly. There was Brian, a shy person who could make sculptures that would blow your mind, and Lily, a punk rocker with a gift for abstract art. To them, I was just Lily, the girl who could paint like it was no big deal. And they couldn't care less about the drama in my family. One day, Lily called me Linda, a moniker I kind of liked. "A tattoo shop in the downtown area is in need of a designer. You ought to submit an application." I was first dubious. If my parents found out that I was employed in a tattoo parlor, they would go crazy. Then again, I wondered, why should it matter what others think? I applied, and much to my surprise, was hired. After seeing my portfolio, the owner, a large man named Ryan, who had more tattoos than skin, told me, "You're hired, kid." I was earning money for myself for the first time in my life. It was mine, even though it wasn't much. I kept it a secret from Julie and my parents. Julie's mocking voice was already in my head when she said, "Oh, little Teresa's drawing pictures for tough guys now. How adorable." My time at college was enjoyable. With the intention of making my grandmother proud, I immersed myself into my studies. My work was well received by my professors, and I even took home a couple minor prizes. Above all, though, I felt content. The years passed fairly quickly, and I found myself nearing the end of my second year. I had to go home, and as summer break drew near, a familiar dread sank in my gut. I entered pandemonium as soon as I opened the door. Everyone was crammed into the living room, looking enthusiastic and bustling. Julie stood in the midst of it all, holding up a white frock and grinning broadly. The first person to notice me was my mother. She smiled faintly and replied, "Oh, Lily, you're at your house. You weren't expected to arrive so quickly." I was dumbfounded as I stood there. Julie was going to be a wife. When did this occur? Julie grinned and smirked as she turned to face me. "Oh, you were unaware of this?" We must have forgotten because we have all been so preoccupied with the preparations. I experienced a gut punch sensation. Not even one person had bothered to inform me that my own sister was getting married. "Who is the fortunate one?" I asked, attempting to maintain a calm tone of voice. "This is Paul." Julie introduced a tall, attractive man I had not previously noticed. "Isn't he amazing?" Paul smiled politely at me and held out his hand. "Lily, nice to meet you. I've been hearing a lot about you." I shook his hand, unsure of what he had heard precisely. I knew Julie had probably heard nothing positive. The noise of animated conversation downstairs greeted me the following morning. At the breakfast table, Julie was presiding over our parents and a few of her bridesmaids. I overheard them talking and found out that Julie had broken up with her last lover because our parents insisted on it. It seems that he had relationships with some risky individuals. "Blessed be God that you paid attention to us, my love." Mom patted Julie's hand. "Paul is a much better fit for you, and he has a very prosperous family." I had no choice but to roll my eyes. It makes sense that was their concern. Julie turned to face me and grinned broadly. "Talking about Paul, he's bringing me out to dinner tonight. Teresa, you wouldn't really know anything about that? Have you still not found a partner?" They all laughed, and I clenched my coffee cup while attempting to hold back my tears. Certain things are always the same. As the days passed, I made an effort to avoid getting in anyone's way. I drew and counted down the days till I could leave in my room for the majority of that period. However, I was unable to skip the family meal one evening. Julie broke the momentous news to us all seated around the table. She declared, "I've decided to wear Grandma's jewelry to the wedding. That will look amazing with my dress." "Oh, what a brilliant idea that is," Mom yelled. Julie, nevertheless, wasn't done. What could improve it even further, you ask? If I had an accessory that matched it, like, a ring, I guess. With my fork halfway to my mouth, I froze. I could see where this was going. Mom's eyes glowed. "Yes, it is correct. Did your grandmother not leave you a ring, Lily?" I nodded slowly, my stomach churning. "There you have it," Julie exclaimed, clapping her hands. "Teresa, will you lend the ring to me for the wedding?" I stopped using my fork. "Borrow? How long will it last?" Julie laughed, a sound that made my skin crawl. "Oh, cunning Teresa, you'll give it to me permanently after all." I muttered, "But Grandma left that to me." "Come on, Lily," Dad said sternly. "Don't be selfish. It's your sister's wedding day." I looked around the table, hoping to find someone, anyone on my side, but all I saw were expectant faces waiting for me to give in, like always. "Lily," Dad said, his voice colder, "either you give the ring to your sister, or we won't pay for your final year of college." The room fell silent. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "But you promised Grandma," I whispered, tears welling up in my eyes. Julie let out a harsh laugh. "Oh, please. No one cares about promises made to some old woman." I stood up so fast my chair tipped over. "How dare you talk about Grandma like that?" I shouted. "That's enough," Dad roared. "Lily, you have a choice to make. The ring or your education. Decide."
I looked at their faces. Dad's anger, Mom's disappointment, Julie's smug satisfaction. In that moment, I knew I had lost again. With shaking hands, I took off the necklace where I kept the key to my safety deposit box. I handed the key to Julie. The morning after the ring incident, I found Julie in the kitchen. "When exactly is your wedding?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Julie looked up from her coffee with a smug smile. "It's on the 30th. Why? Planning to ruin it?" I ignored her jab. 3 weeks, I said. I have 2 weeks to get away from this toxic environment. "No," I replied calmly. "I'm going to visit a friend from college. I'll be back in time for the wedding." That afternoon, I packed my bags and left, heading to my friend Lily's place in the next city. For the first time in days, I felt like I could breathe. Lily and I spent the week exploring art galleries, visiting local cafes, and just enjoying each other's company. It was exactly what I needed, but my peace was shattered. A week later, I was scrolling through my social media feed when I saw it, photos of Julie's wedding. My sister looked radiant in white, with the diamond tiara sparkling on her head and my ring on her finger. The caption read, "Just married, off to the Maldives with my hunky husband." I felt like I had been punched in the gut. With shaking hands, I dialed my mom's number. "Why didn't you invite me to the wedding?" "Julie gave me the wrong date," I said, my voice trembling. There was a long pause, then Dad's voice came on the line. "Lily, your sister didn't want you there. She said you'd ruin her perfect day. We thought it was best not to tell you." I felt sick. "How could you do this to me? I'm your daughter too." "Don't be dramatic," Mom chimed in. "It's not like you really wanted to be there anyway, right?" I hung up, my whole body shaking with anger and hurt. A few days later, I returned home only to find that Julie had also come back from her honeymoon. I walked into the living room and saw her with Mom and Dad, looking at apartment listings. I cleared my throat and they all looked up. "Don't forget about my tuition," I said quietly. "You promised to pay for my last year if I gave Julie the ring." Dad shifted uncomfortably. "Actually, Lily, we've decided to use that money as a down payment on Julie's apartment instead." It felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. "But you promised. You swore to Grandma." "Plans changed," Mom said dismissively. "Julie needs it more. I'm sure you can figure something out." Julie was still laughing, a cruel, mocking sound that made my blood boil. I knew exactly what I was doing when I lunged at her, grabbing a fistful of her hair. Julie screamed, and suddenly everyone was shouting. Dad pulled me away, his face red with anger. "That's enough," he roared. "Lily, get out of this house right now." I ran to my room, threw some clothes into a bag, and stormed out, slamming the front door behind me. As I walked away from the house, my heart pounding and tears streaming down my cheeks, I realized something. I ended up back at Lily's place, feeling completely lost and broken. For days, I barely left her guest room, alternating between crying and staring blankly at the walls. Lily did her best to comfort me, but nothing seemed to help. A week passed in this haze of despair. Then one morning, as I listlessly checked my email, I saw a message that made my heart stop. "Congratulations! You are the winner of the annual art school competition. Your prize includes a full scholarship for your final year of studies." I read the email 5 times, not believing my eyes. Then I let out a scream that brought Lily running. I handed her my phone, happy tears streaming down my face. I won a scholarship. I can finish school." Lily's eyes widened as she read the email. Then she pulled me into a tight hug. "Oh my God, Linda, this is amazing!" For the first time in weeks, I felt a glimmer of hope. I could finish my degree without my parents' help. I could make my own way. When the new semester started, I threw myself into my studies with renewed energy. Between my classes and my part-time job at the tattoo parlor, I barely had time to think about my family drama. Months passed, and I slowly started to heal. One day, I was hanging out with my classmate Scott, who worked part-time at a local pawn shop. We were chatting about our day when he mentioned something that caught my attention. "You won't believe what happened during my shift today," he said. "This girl came in with the most beautiful diamond necklace and ring I've ever seen. Must have been worth a fortune." My heart skipped a beat. "What did she look like?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. Scott described a woman who sounded exactly like Julie. "Can you draw the jewelry for me?" I asked, my hand shaking slightly. Scott looked confused but agreed. As I watched him sketch, my suspicions were confirmed. The necklace was the one Julie had always bragged about, and the ring, it was my grandmother's ring. I asked, my mouth dry, "Is there any way you could get me the security footage from the pawn shop?" Scott must have seen the desperation in my eyes because he finally nodded. "Okay, I'll see what I can do." A few days later, Scott handed me a USB drive. "Here," he said, "but you didn't get this from me, okay?" I nodded gratefully and rushed back to my dorm room. With trembling hands, I plugged in the drive and opened the video file. There was Julie, clear as day, handing over the jewelry. But what shocked me even more was what happened next. As she turned to leave, a man entered the frame. Julie threw her arms around him, kissing him passionately. It wasn't Paul. I leaned closer to the screen, my heart pounding. As the man turned slightly, I recognized him. It was Julie's ex-boyfriend, the one her parents had forced her to break up with because of his criminal connections. I sat back, my mind spinning. Julie had sold her precious jewelry, including my grandmother's ring, and was apparently cheating on her husband with her criminal ex-boyfriend. Part of me wanted to immediately send this video to my parents, to Paul, to everyone who had ever believed Julie's lies, but another part of me hesitated. This was big, too big, to act on impulsively. Months passed, and I thought I had put my family drama behind me. Then, out of the blue, my phone rang. It was my Aunt Laura, my mom's sister. "Lily, darling, I have wonderful news," she chirped, her voice full of excitement. "Your sister is pregnant. Can you believe it? They're having a big announcement party next week. Isn't it exciting?" My heart sank. Of course, another family event I hadn't been invited to. "That's great, Aunt Laura. Thanks for letting me know." After hanging up, I sat on my bed, conflicted. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to continue cutting ties with my toxic family, but another part of me, the part that still held on to the video from the pawn shop, knew this might be my chance. 2 weeks later, I found myself standing outside my parents' house. Cars lined the street, and I could hear laughter and chatter from inside. Taking a deep breath, I walked up to the front door and rang the bell. Mom opened the door, her smile fading as soon as she saw me. "Lily, what are you doing here?" Without answering, I pushed past her and stepped inside. I walked into the living room, and the chatter quickly died down as everyone noticed me. Julie, standing in the center of the room with Paul, looked like she'd seen a ghost. "What is she doing here?" Julie hissed. Dad's voice boomed through the room. "Lily, get out of this house immediately! You're not welcome here!" Confused murmurs rippled through the guests. I saw Paul's parents exchange worried glances. Mom, always concerned about appearances, forced a fake smile. "I'm so sorry, everyone. We've had to distance ourselves from Lily. She's become quite greedy and unworthy of our family name." The room erupted into arguments. Some relatives defended me while others sided with my parents. I raised my voice. "I have something to say." Gradually, the room quieted down and all eyes were on me. I turned to Julie. "Congratulations on your pregnancy, sis. But I have to ask, why aren't you wearing Grandma Tara's ring?" Julie's face went pale. Her mother-in-law spoke up. Now that you mention it, I haven't seen that beautiful ring in a while. Julie, dear, where is it? Julie stuttered. I sent them for restoration. They needed cleaning. I nodded slowly, pulling out my phone. That's interesting because I have a video here that tells a different story. The color drained from Julie's face as I connected my phone to the TV. The security footage from the pawn shop began to play. There was Julie, clear as day, pawning the jewelry. Then the moment that made everyone in the room gasp, Julie throwing herself into the arms of a man who was definitely not Paul, kissing him passionately. The moment the video ended, chaos erupted in the living room. Paul's face twisted with rage and pain as he turned to Julie. Julie, what is this? Who is that man? He shouted, his voice cracking. Julie burst into tears, mascara streaming down her face. I can explain. Paul's mother moved closer, speaking in a stern tone. I think we all deserve an explanation, Julie. The stern-looking man who was Paul's father spoke up. I think we need a paternity test immediately. While accusations were being made and tensions were rising, I stealthily left the house. I had accomplished my goal. The truth was known. I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders for the first time in years. The whole scope of Julie's deceit became apparent to the family over the course of the following few weeks. After some research, I learned that Julie had been meeting her ex-boyfriend, the one with the criminal connections, in secret and behind Paul's back. She had been taking advantage of Paul with his money, even pawning her jewelry to settle his bills. The deciding factor was the paternity test findings. The baby belonged to her ex-boyfriend, not Paul. Understandably distraught, Paul filed for divorce. Citing financial theft and emotional losses, he filed a large-scale lawsuit against Julie. After learning about the pregnancy, Julie's ex-boyfriend vanished into thin air, leaving her to handle everything alone. Julie's actions forced my parents, who had always supported her, to confront the hard truth. In order to assist Julie in paying Paul's demands, they were compelled to take out a large loan. They were left to pick up the bits when their golden child fell. Strangely enough, they attempted to hold me accountable for everything. My mother left a voicemail on my phone, sounding resentful and accusatory. Lily, are you pleased now? Your sister's life has been ruined. I'm hoping you feel good about yourself. I didn't reply and erased the note. I was no longer able to be harmed by their comments. In my case, I went back to college, concentrated on my coursework, and began creating the life I want. I stopped communicating with my family and updated both my email and phone number. At last, the poisonous cycle was broken. 4 years have passed since the day I revealed Julie's deceit. My final effort won accolades from academics and local art critics, and I graduated with honors from art college. I currently work at the city's Harmony Art Gallery as a 25-year-old. It's an actualized dream. Every day I'm surrounded by stunning artwork because I assist in curating exhibitions and planning events for upcoming artists. That's not all, though. I've begun painting in my spare time, and to my surprise and happiness, a few collectors have expressed interest in my work, but I still remember my roots. In my leisure time, I still draw tattoos. It's developed into a treasured pastime that serves as a reminder of my progress and a link to the past. It always makes me happy to see that some of my designs have been published in tattoo magazines. My family's tale is more nuanced than that. A few aunts and cousins who supported me during the aftermath are people I've stayed in touch with. They keep me informed about the family strife, but I make an effort to ignore it. Julie is still residing with our parents, from what I've heard. Her child is being raised by her alone while she is unemployed. Her parents, who are also having financial difficulties, are often putting pressure on her to get a job and move out. I've been told that the arguments are regular and acrimonious. Since then, I haven't spoken to Julie or my parents. They initially made several attempts to get in touch with me, leaving irate voicemails and guilt-tripping messages, but I was steadfast in my resolve to break things up. They eventually gave up trying. On the plus side, I've been dating Frank for the past year, and he's amazing. I met this graphic designer at an event at a gallery. He is understanding, helpful, and most importantly, he shares my enthusiasm for the arts. In fact, we're planning to move in together shortly, which seems like a step in the right direction toward creating the life I desire.